Hey everyone, welcome to season 5, episode 5 of the Offstage mic. We have such a great episode for you today. If you understand and truly embrace what we are talking about today, your arts organization will be forever changed. This is not hyperbole. The topic we are talking about today literally changed my career. It changed how I think about audiences forevermore, and the results that came from that were just incredible. And the reason this is so important is because a really big misstep I see a lot of orchestras, operas, theater companies, any kind of arts organization really make. And honestly, this is exactly the same mistake I used to make. So no shame in the game, but the exact mistake I used to make when I learned the stuff we're talking about today, and then it changed everything. So that misstep or mistake is understanding your core audience. We talk a lot about our core audience, but not understanding the not core audience, everybody else, right? In other words, arts administrators and arts organizations tend to understand, when we say core, your major donors and or board members, for example, which makes complete sense because that is who you, me, we tend to talk to the most. Like, we know them because we have interactions with them. And what happens is that then you have a pretty clear idea of that one segment of your audience, this super engaged group of people. So this is not bad. This is good, in fact. But the other side of that coin is that you definitely don't have that same level of understanding among the other groups of people or the other segments of the audience. So here's why this is such a problem and such a big misstep. Because those ultra engaged people that you tend to know the best are actually the smallest fraction of your total audience, the smallest fraction of your total patron base. If you don't believe me, look at your CRM. If you look at your CRM, you will see that at most arts organizations, often around 8 or 9% of all accounts are actually in this quote unquote engaged category, meaning current donors and subscribers. I'm not even talking major donors. That percentage is way, way smaller. So if only around 8 or 9% of your entire base, your entire CRM is actually engaged, for some organizations, that percentage is even smaller, by the way, but let's try to give the benefit of the doubt here. If it's only 8 or 9% in this engaged group, subscribers and donors, that means, do the math, 91 or 92% is in the not engaged group, the not core audience group. Everyone else, that group is either a single ticket buyer, a first-time buyer, or the most common, by far, is the totally inactive group. Meaning they were once active, they once had some sort of transaction with the organization, ticket, subscription, donation, whatever, gala attendee, some transaction. Now they are inactive. That's the vast majority. Now, I know some of you are listening and saying, yeah, Aubrey, but that small group, that 8 or 9% or whatever number it is for your organization, that small group is where most of the money comes from. I know, that's not wrong. That is why we focus on those folks. So again, it's not bad, it's not wrong. But here's the thing. If you are growing donations and your ticket sales are fine, then keep doing that strategy of only focusing on or only worrying about your core audience. Like, if it's working for you, no problem. But if you are at one of those arts organizations struggling to meet rising costs every year, having to raise more money from fewer people, struggling to balance the budget, if you're in that camp, which is most people listening, then you are missing a big opportunity. So what does that missed opportunity look like? What do I mean when I say you don't understand the bulk of your audience, this 92% or whatever the number is? So this plays out in a few ways, like the website, for example. When the website isn't approachable for a newcomer or even just somebody who's a newer attendee who's less familiar with the art form, it's not approachable because it uses all kinds of vocabulary or musical jargon, or it's written where if you don't have an understanding of composer names or soloist names, even the biggest composer names and soloist names, you really don't know what the program is about. Or the program book is full of unapproachable music history or music theory, more so in the program notes, or switching gears to a museum, the object labels, those are the wall placards for the non-museum folks listening. The object labels talk about the medium and the brushstroke like it's everyday language. Or for any artistic institution, no matter your discipline, when you write a donor solicitation and everyone gets the same ask, no matter their donor history, like we talked about in the first episode of this season. So another way to say what I'm describing here is user experience. Poor user experience, really, are the examples I just gave. And the user in this case is your audience member, your customer. It's your new donor. It's your board member. It's your super engaged person. All of those are users. All of those are customers. And this episode is focusing on that 92% of your users, the 92% of your audience that is not the core, not the ultra engaged group. I know what some of you are thinking. Aubrey, if we use more familiar language on our website, program book, object labels, wherever, then we will alienate the core audience. And I used to think that too. I used to be very afraid of this. So your fears are not unfounded. And then I learned the largest part of the audience base is not the core. It's the new people. Learning this was a game changer for my entire career, because designing for the 8% or whatever that number is for your organization, by designing for that group, you are actually alienating everyone else. And everyone else is by far the vast majority of our audience. And that's a big reason why we're seeing declines, why we're seeing that inactive number of our database so exceptionally high. So here's another one. Some of you might be thinking, this one is either, it could be unconsciously or subconsciously. Some people think reputation is more important than relevance. Okay, so let me say that again. Reputation of the institution is more important than relevance today, relevance to the customer, to the user. Like I said, I don't know that a lot of arts administrators, arts managers say that out loud, but that's what it means when you use all those vocabulary words or depend on the soloist reputation or blockbuster programming to sell tickets. That's what it means when you tell people to donate to keep the art alive or to keep the organization going, this very like organization-centric language. All of that is based on reputation. Now, don't get me wrong, both reputation and relevance are important. So I am not saying your reputation isn't important. I'm not saying the foundation you have built for your institution is not important. The work you've done over decades and decades, and for some organizations, hundreds of years is not important. That's not what I'm saying. So don't hear that. What I'm saying is that reputation isn't something you simply have. It is something you earn by being relevant. So these are not two separate things. These are two very intertwined things. So do you understand the difference? For a long time, reputation worked for orchestras, opera companies, theaters, museums, all kinds of other brands too, not just the arts. And today, leaning on reputation alone of fill in the blank, institution, artist, conductor, soloist, composer, any of that isn't enough. Because reputation isn't something that's fixed. Reputation isn't immutable. Reputation is actually the sum of all of your past relevant actions. Like I said, these two things are very intertwined. So if you continue to focus more on reputation than relevance, you could end up an organization that was once long respected and well respected, but no longer in existence. This happens. Think of brands like Kodak, Sears, BlackBerry. Those are organizations that absolutely leaned on their own reputation over prioritizing relevance. And then we know the story. The world passed them by. They weren't relevant anymore. And then they go the way of the dodo. So we should not be ignorant to think that that cannot happen to us. And in fact, of course, to some arts organizations who've closed their doors, that's already happened. So the question is not, will we alienate our core audience? Or the question isn't even, what will our core audience think? The question is, how many additional loyal patrons and supporters are we going to gain when we are relevant and accessible in 2025? That question gets me super excited. I hope it does for you too. So the choice is yours. And that is what we're talking about in this episode today. The choice is rely on a shrinking donor base and a reputation that is not guaranteed another day. Or look at the huge untapped potential of the bulk of your audience. We are going to get into exactly how to do that, and I have an awesome guest here to help me do it. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 5. Let's hit it. I'm Aubrey Bergauer, and welcome to my podcast. I'm known in the arts world for being customer-centric, data-obsessed, and for growing revenue. The arts are my vehicle to make the change I want to see in this world, like creating places of belonging, pursuing gender and racial equality, developing high-performing teams and leaders, and leveraging technology to elevate our work. I've been called the Steve Jobs of classical music and the Sheryl Sandberg of the symphony. I've held offstage roles managing millions of dollars in revenue at major institutions, been chief executive of an orchestra where we doubled the size of the audience and nearly quadrupled the donor base. And now I'm here to help you achieve that same kind of success. In this podcast, we are sorting through data and research inside and outside the arts, applying those findings to our work in arts management, and bringing in some extra voices along the way, all to build the vibrant future we know is possible for our institutions and for ourselves as offstage administrators and leaders. You're listening to the Offstage Mic. Hi everyone, Aubrey here. I want to share a quick case study with you. About a year ago, Austin Chamber Music Center knew they needed to work on identifying prospective donors and building relationships with the donors they already had. Plus, they went through a leadership transition and knew they needed to fundraise more and fast. They came to Annual Fund Toolkit, who did a comprehensive analysis of their donor base, then developed a system for the organization to connect with those donors based on their needs and giving styles. They did all of this combining in-person asks with email, social media, and direct mail. By the end of the fiscal year, their year-to-date fundraising had doubled compared to the year prior. And that's just the numbers. They now also have a streamlined process for tracking and maintaining donor relationships going forward. How did they do all this? They did it with Annual Fund Toolkit. Annual Fund Toolkit is not just another consulting firm. What sets them apart is their laser focus on two critical challenges: improving donor retention and growing the major gifts pipeline. This can be your organization too, because this is what Annual Fund Toolkit does every day. Their founder, Luis Diaz, is one of the most brilliant minds in fundraising I've ever met. The organizations that utilize Annual Fund Toolkit's advice and assistance are coming out ahead. To read the full case study, head over to get.annualfundtoolkit.com/ACMC. That's get.annualfundtoolkit.com/ACMC for Austin Chamber Music Center. Trust me, your donors and your mission will thank you. My guest today is Linda Shi Logston. I invited Linda on because she has built a unique career at the intersection of performing arts and technology. She was born in Taiwan and classically trained in music. She then moved to New York at age 23 to study music business at NYU, diving headfirst into the world of artist management. She then worked with renowned agencies like IMG Artists, Primo Artists, and Park Avenue Artists. They're representing world-class talent. These are some of the biggest names in classical music. So many of you listening know these names she worked with. And later, her work expanded into the Asian market to bring these international artists to new audiences there. Then, when the pandemic disrupted the entire performing arts industry, Linda really embraced the change, recognizing the power of technology in the arts. She pivoted to tech in 2022 as a UX or UI designer, and that means user experience and user interface. In other words, how a user interacts with the product. And this is the part I cannot get enough of. Linda has been bringing that work back to classical music and bringing fresh perspectives to the arts industry whenever she can. She did a session on this topic of user experience in the Changing the Narrative community about a year, maybe even a year and a half ago at this point. And when we were putting together this season of the podcast, I have to say, I knew I wanted to bring Linda on to share as much knowledge and expertise as we can pack into this episode as possible. And just to share or tease what she's working on now, Linda is really marrying her work in tech with classical music even more. And she is working on what she describes as artist-first software to empower artists and arts organizations to work more efficiently and effectively. Anyone who has worked on booking artists knows this could be so helpful to the whole process because it's a process that can often be quite manual or cumbersome at times. So I'm ready for it. And when she is not doing all of that, she's learning jazz piano too. Linda, I am so excited to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I want to start by asking, how do you define UX design? Like, let's start at the very beginning. How do you define it?
Yeah. Well, before I talk about UX design, I'd like to talk about what is design. I think design is a little bit more of a, familiar term for everybody. And I'm sure, you can look around your room, your lights, the chair you're sitting. Like, let's talk about your chair, right? Like, whoever's designing your chair, what kind of questions do they ask? Like, where is this chair being used? At the dining table? At the computer? Or outside in the patio? Because if they didn't ask these questions, they might use a fabric that's only okay for inside and use it outside. And the users will get real upset if they get wet, right? So asking questions of like, who's going to use this product and how can I solve their problem when I'm designing a product, a process, an experience is a must. So I think that's the gist of designing anything. So UX design, UX is a abbreviation for user experience. So as you can tell from the name of it, right? Like we very much take what user are experiencing into our design process. So, we don't just design inside our room and then make a whole lot of assumptions of like, this is what they want, or this is what I think that they want. We are very much aware that we're just one data point, and even our spouse or our friends are just 2-3 other data points. We want to make sure that we have enough information to inform us that what we're designing is what people are actually using. And then, so there is a process of user experience design, and we call that design thinking. So in short, it's a process that we incorporate.
Okay, I just have to underscore some things you said already, because I love what you were saying about it's like eliciting problems that the user might have and then coming at how do we solve those problems. That feels so just helpful to hear in terms of this work. And then the other thing you said that I thought was so great and applicable immediately is not as the designer, the user experience researcher, you are not deciding for the customer, for the user, what they want. Already, I'm like, oh, that applies to classical music so much. So, okay, go back to the process. Design thinking, walk us through that. Define it. What is the process? Explain or give us an example if you would.
Yeah, design thinking is a pretty popular term in the tech industry. It just involves 5 different steps: empathy, define, ideate, prototype, and test. So I'll dive into each step a little bit more so you understand. So empathize is basically user research. You talk to the people who uses your product or who comes to your venue. You talk to them, understand their journey. How did they get there? Start with maybe how did they even think about to want to go to an event or want to spend some time with somebody, right? Because a lot of the time their experience don't start with your product. They start somewhere else. And then you want to know where they start. So maybe that's your future digital marketing strategy, right? So yeah, first step, you understand where they're coming from, what they're experiencing, what's good, what's bad. Second step is define. So define just means that taking all of what they say, and usually we take a sample size of like 10 people. I think 10 people is a starting number to make information legit. So it's not biased in any way.
That's helpful. I just want to interject real fast and say, so I think a lot of folks think if we're doing this work, this research, we've got to interview like a bazillion people or send out a survey to our whole database. And you're like, no. Like 10 people is all you really need. So that's hugely helpful. So I just wanted to underscore that. Please continue.
Yeah. Of course, if you could get more, but none of us have that much time and resources, right? 10 is a good starting place to be. So second step is definition. So define. Basically, you take all the bad experiences that they're talking about, and then you define what problem you want to solve. You know that there's a problem. That's why you're doing this. So now you're just defining exactly what is that problem. Make sure that you're not making assumptions. Make sure that you're asking the right questions in the first step so you could dive into what people are really experiencing so that you can have a good quality of data points here and then to help you define the right problem. Third step is ideate. Ideate is just you take the problem that you want to solve and you come up with ideas to solve them. And there's a lot of ideation exercises that you could just Google and see them. Some of the ones that I really like is Crazy 8, Bad Idea Ideation. The idea is just to get your brain juice going and then just spit out a lot of different ideas and then take the ones that are most, relevant and actionable and then start trying it. So the next step, prototype, is to take whatever ideas you came up with and want to invest some resources into, and then you start prototyping it. It's very important to make it really the leanest solution possible. So, for example, we will talk about like minimal viable product. That's where this comes in when you are trying to redesign your newsletter, right? You don't need to overhaul the whole thing. Just start with the smallest tweaks, smallest things that you could change, and then you're hoping to see the most impact. You could just start from there and then see how it pans out, which takes us to the next and the last step, which is test. Test is just put it out in front of people to see how people react to it, and then take notes to see if your assumptions are correct or your hypotheses are correct. If they're reacting great, awesome. You made a great guess of what people will like and don't like. And if they don't react great, also awesome, because you didn't put in too much resources. So it's very easy for you to iterate. So in designing an experience, iteration is very important. And the idea of taking everything as experiment is also a very key element to help you kickstart on any design projects.
Okay, everybody, Linda is giving you permission to not have to be 100% perfect on everything you try. Is that accurate that I'm saying that?
Oh, for sure. And, like any tech companies out there, Google, the Facebook, they all test out things. That's why you see beta versions of things. They want early feedbacks. It's because that there are in the company, the team that's working on this product, they already made up some hypotheses and they want to see how people react to it. And they will not put in a lot of resources unless they see that people are reacting to it well.
Okay, I love this because I hear so much anytime I have conversations, pretty much anytime I have conversations with arts organizations about testing something, whether it's in this world of like UX research and UX design or just another conversation altogether. And I'm like, let's test it. Usually the pushback is, but then we got to build this whole thing and we have to, make it perfect. And I'm like, no. MVP, like you said, minimum viable product. And I think that is so counterintuitive for so many arts administrators. And I think it's because, tell me what you think about this, our whole lives as musicians, we're trained to what we put on stage is to be as perfect as possible. That's a performance. So then we think on the administrative side, it has to match that. But the truth is musicians rehearse. And I feel like the analogy is that a lot of this UX iteration and testing is in many ways the equivalent of rehearsing. I don't know. That's my latest kind of connection on all this.
I love the connection you make. I think it's very much like rehearsal or even like open rehearsal.
Oh, yes. Open rehearsal. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you put what you have in front of people, like comedy, like people who talk stand up, they have to try out their jokes to see if it works. And if it doesn't work, they have to think about why it doesn't work or if they should just drop it or if it's the wrong audience. And this is where you could really get creative. And to me, this is the fun part.
So then where or when does leadership come into this? Like if somebody's hearing all this and they're like, I want to start this at my organization, when do you suggest going up the chain and getting buy-in from above?
Yeah. So of the 5 steps, I mean, They could join as early as possible. Like we all say, like you need to communicate with your leadership as early as possible so they can voice their opinions as you're going through this. But I would say, like, for an organization that doesn't already have this mindset built in, user research to identify what the problems are. And then once you have the problem pretty much nailed down, go to your leadership and then present a few ideas that you come up with. And then they're going to ask, how much is this going to cost? How long is this going to take, right? So this is when you come in with your MVP. You can say, this is not going to take too much. We're just going to try it out for 2 weeks, put it out in front of people, and then we're going to see how the data reacts. I would say, like, once you come up with all of these things, go to your leadership and present to them, because it's very hard for them to say no if, you know, we have a problem, we have a solution, and it doesn't take too much to solve. Sure, let's try it, right?
That's great advice. Okay, so I want to give a real world example of how this plays out. What example can we give on this?
Yeah, this actually recently happened to me. But it kind of requires a role play. So would you role play with me?
Tell me what to do. Let's do it.
Okay, I'm going to send you a script and just a little context. I got this call. So it's a phone conversation. This happened to me in real life. It's from a performing arts center. I'm not going to name the name, but yeah, I got this call a few weeks ago, and then they are trying to have me donate. I wrote down our conversation, so a lot of these are really word by word. Would you like to do it with me?
So I'm the role of the telefunder.
Sure.
Okay. Hi, this is Aubrey from the Performing Arts Center, and I'm calling for Linda Say.
It's she. This is she.
Oh, great. Is this a good time to talk?
Sure, I can talk for a few minutes, but I'm at work actually.
Oh, okay, great. Well, first, I just want to thank you for your support for supporting the Performing Arts Center back in 2018. That really helped us expand our program for the children. And our program for the children is so awesome because we serve thousands of children every year in all of the schools, and we bring them to our performances, and it's really wonderful. So would you like to make another donation to continue your support for our program? As a donor, you can join us at rehearsals. You can come to the wine receptions that we always have. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds great. But I moved out of New York about 6 years ago. I live in California now.
Oh, I see. Well, do you still want to donate the same amount to support the program of helping more than 500 children access music education?
I really need to know, like, since I donated until now, what's changed. So is there a better way or like a website that I could look into what this program is and, what impact I have made?
Yes, we have some information on our website. You can definitely go look it up.
Great. Then I prefer to look that up myself before I decide whether I want to continue the donation.
Okay, then is there a time I can call you back to check in and help you make the donation?
Sure. What about Friday at 9 a.m. before I start work?
That's perfect. That will be my Friday at noon, so I will call you then. Thanks, Linda. Bye.
Bye.
Also, I just want to say the script literally told me to butcher her last name because that's what the caller in real life did. So Linda told me to do it.
I did have a very hard to pronounce last name, so not your fault.
Okay, tell me what is going through your head. Say more.
Yeah. So first, I think they caught me at a bad time, but I am a person who loves arts and really want to help art. So in a way, I'm a great candidate to be a donor. So I gave them my time. The fact that they told me, hey, this is the program, we help thousands of children, and can you give us more money, right? In a way, I think that's not very nice. My hard-earned money, and even though that I want to make an impact, I want to know how I'm making an impact, what impact I've already made, and how are you planning to use my money, right? I want to know all of these things before I give out my money. So for these telefunders to kind of just like, this is our program, this is our cause, give us your money. I don't think that's very considerate. And the fact that I asked for more information and I want to digest them on my own term, I am assuming that there's a place with a very complete or comprehensive information about what this program is about. And I went onto the website, I don't see it. I don't see how things are progressing. I don't see who's being helped. I just get a very generalized, hey, we're helping children, right? And I think there's a lot of crowdfunding platforms are doing a lot better work than this. Like they're showing you how much money we raised, who is donating, so you could see other people who's also helping the cause, and then what's being changed. Like those things are communicated through a screen or a PDF file or anything like that. But this organization did not show me any of that. I just feel like this experience could be a lot better. And for somebody like me who cares about the arts a lot and who's willing to donate money, they did not get my money, which is a pity.
All right, now we're going to take a quick break. Up next, Linda will walk us through applying the 5 steps of UX design to make this fundraising call more effective. Here's a fun fact. A returning audience member is worth 7 times more than a first-timer. Yes, I am talking about audience retention, one of my favorite topics, but the problem I hear all the time from arts organizations is how to best track your own patron retention data across marketing and development. That's why I want to tell you about Artalize. Artalize has brilliantly solved this challenge. Their audience retention dashboard is the one-stop place to access your audience data across every important metric: first-time buyers, multi-buyers, subscribers, and donors. I've worked with a lot of tools and data management programs over the years. The Artalize audience retention dashboard works with any CRM, and it supports arts organizations of all sizes all over the globe. If you can upload a spreadsheet, within minutes, you can access all your data, your key patron segments and top retention metrics, beautifully laid out and easy to read. It's just that easy, no joke. And their tool even makes real-time recommendations based on your patron data to boost conversion at each stage of the customer journey. So you can see what's working, refine your approach, and keep doubling down on what drives the best results. The Artalize team brought me into their process, and we had clients test the product with their own real data. So let me tell you, I have seen firsthand the immense time, money, and effort this dashboard can save arts organizations, allowing you to finally harness your data in one place. Think. Easier collaboration between marketing and development efforts, easier for presenting at board meetings, easier to see everything in one place without running multiple reports. If you are ready to grow, retain, and engage your audience with data-driven tools that are easy and fast to use, visit aubreybergauer.com/dashboard. Listeners of this podcast save 20%, and members of my Run It Like a Business Academy save even more. That's www.aubreybergauer.com/dashboard to learn more about Artalize today. So then the goal of the organization, and I agree with this, is still eventually to get the person to donate, right? Like we need that. That's so critical to our mission. So then, given that that's still the goal, what do you recommend? Like, can we take this example and can we go through the 5 steps? Like you lead through, like, what would it look like to UX research or UX design this?
Yeah, sure. If we're going through the UX design, we are looking at this experience as more holistically. So it might change more than just the call. But yeah, we could go through it. First step is empathize, right? So, well, we're making these calls and we're not getting donation. So what's wrong there, right? This is probably where we're going to start. What I'll do is I'll probably call up 10 people, perhaps, and then made it very clear that, hey, we are doing like a donor profile research, something like that, to let them know we're not trying to get you to donate, but we're just trying to understand more, right? And then in this research call, it could probably go from what do you do, what's your age, how many concerts do you go to, and do you donate? And then a very important question in there is like, why do you donate? And you can start with like, when's the last time you donate? What cause did you donate to? And what made you want to donate? From there, you can start to understand why people donate and what information is important to them in order for them to give their money away. So the next time when you're planning information to share with your donors, you know what's important to them and you know what to share with them, right? And then you know it's going to be effective because they told you that's what they needed. This step is all about collecting information from your donors. Ask some open-ended questions that's not necessarily related to your own organization, but just like try to come from a perspective of understanding who they are, what they do, and what makes them want to support a cause. Second step is define. So define is when you take all the notes that you got from your calls and then put them into sticky notes. So basically a process from pages and pages of messy notes and turn them into sticky notes. This is something you can work with. And from the sticky notes, you want to start grouping them into similar themes. So like say all of these people said that they didn't have enough information for them to donate again. Then you want to group all of these together and give them a theme. After this exercise, you'll end up with a wall of different problem statements per se. You'll see like, oh, they don't like this, so they didn't donate, or they didn't see this, so they didn't donate. So you'll have a whole list of these things. The third step is ideate. I would say between define and ideate, you will need to choose which problem you want to ideate first. How do you choose which one to work on first is by choosing the one problem that you see if we solve this one will make the most impact. So there's a few different ways you could do this, but the easiest one is if we solve this one, we could get more money, right? So you choose the problem that's has the most direct relationship to how much money you're going to get. So choose that problem and then you go into ideation. Ideation, you can choose 2 to 3 different exercises. And in this example, you probably get like every time the telefunder calls me, it's at a bad time. I would rather schedule a time where I could actually talk to them and understand better so I can donate with more intention, right? Maybe this is what you get from a lot of the people you interviewed. In order to solve this problem, you can probably come up with different ideas as if like maybe the first call is scheduling a time to talk to them, or we can do a different type of soliciting, like maybe use a calendar invite. There's a lot of different ideas. Like I said, bad ideas are ideas. It's good to get the bad ideas out there so you know that this idea, we've thought about it and we know it's bad, so let's not pursue it anymore, right? So this is what I like about ideating, is just to get your brain juice out there. No idea is bad idea. Now that we have ideated, we can start prototyping. So prototyping, it could be just a script, improved list of questions, and then support them on why you're asking these questions. So in my example, it could be first, explain a cause. My venue is raising money to support children to learn music. And this mission is very important because in our town, it's very hard to access early education in music. And looking at your profession, an art administrator, I'm assuming that you know some music. Like, when do you start learning music? Is it earlier in your life or later in your life? And say if this person learned music earlier in their life, I can say, yeah, so you see the importance of having access to music or art early in their life, and then how it's going to make an impact in their life, right? The next thing on my script, I will probably ask them, like, how is our cause resonating with your own experience? And can we count on you on supporting us monetarily or not monetarily, right? And then they'll probably tell you their life story, making connection with you. And then once they share their experience with you, you could use that tidbit and say like, hey, so I see why this thing is important to you, and this is how we're going to make a difference by using your money. And then so you know that you're talking to their mind space and then you're talking to what they're caring about. And I will quantify what certain amount of money can buy. So can you donate $100? This is about 2 lessons for a student. So 2 lessons, we can already get them started and get them interested. And that's very important to a start of a musical journey. I think sort of give this script a little bit more thought, a little bit more of a empathy to who you're talking to, is going to make a lot of difference.
Mm-hmm. Well, then to finish this with an arts organization was hearing something like this and thinking, oh yeah, we could do a version of this with our tail of funding scripts. The MVP version of this would be what? Like make your next 5 calls using this process maybe, and this like building connection type script, and just see, do people stay on the phone longer? Do people end up obviously donating at a higher percentage like that? Right? Am I getting this right? Like that's how you test it. Okay, great. Out of our very small sample size, we're seeing indication that it's working. Okay, let's try a slightly bigger sample size, right? Is that what you would recommend?
Exactly. So you would go and define your measure of success. How do you see success in this script? More people donated. More people want to talk to you on the phone for a longer time. More people ask questions. They're more engaged in your cause. Then all of these things could be an indication that this script is working better than what you had before.
Thank you for doing that. That was super fun. So a barrier I see is that arts organizations are afraid to stop what they are doing. They're afraid to change their phone call script. For example, they're afraid to write their website copy differently. They're afraid to take down the modal pop-up asking people to join the email list. Just afraid to stop, because what if we have something to lose, I guess is the thought. What's your response to that? How do you combat that?
I know it's hard to break out of habit. But yeah, I think it's a culture thing. If you're a leader in an organization and you want your organization to improve, you gotta, solve problems. I think that the tech industry has kind of nailed this process. Like, a lot of the time the product has user going on and then you're changing things in the meantime, right? What I've seen being practiced in my previous job is we literally block out 5 days, so 1 week, to do something we call a hackathon. And a hackathon just means that you see a problem, you have an idea to solve the problem, then you use this 5 days to build out the prototype, basically. I would be interested to see if an arts organization could sort of try this out. From my experience, a lot of arts administrators, there's so many things to do. They're creative people, right? A lot of them has arts background, but they're sort of kind of in this grind of just like issuing contracts, making sure artist is here, and then making sure the refreshment is there. Like, it's a lot of urgent but not so creative things, but incorporating a few days of like, hey, what problem do you see? How do you see it being solved? Let's potentially try it if the solution is doable, right? I think this is something I'm interested to see if there's any arts organization could try. And once there's a proposed solution, you have to think about like, you're going to lose some, but you're going to earn some. With this new approach, you're going to have some new learning. Even though that you lose some donors, of course, try the small donors, right? Like, don't try it with the big donors. Like, there's a lot of wisdom to that, right? I think by just being transparent with, we're trying to improve, and then we're trying to get your involvement to help us become a better venue or a better organization. I think that says a lot to your patrons, right? Like, they're going to be amazed, and they're going to be like so willing to be involved in the betterment of this community who would want a better place.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Is like, this is the point. How do we generate more revenue to fund our art and our mission?
Yeah. And it's about like looking into the process of how you get money and how you're leaving money on the table, right? If you see that you're leaving money on the table, why wouldn't you try to get that money?
Exactly. Yeah. So, okay, for the person listening to this who is interested in this work, definitely anybody who has read my Orchestra X research project, where do they begin?
I would just say like start small. If you see like something is potentially a problem, try to understand it. Try to talk to people, like have conversation with people, right? I'm a big fan of asking questions, asking the right questions. You can just reveal so many different things. And I often see there's a barrier between arts administrators and the audience. Like there's an invisible wall in the middle of them. But really just talk to them and then see what's making their experience good or bad. And there you can find some problems for you to start improving. And I think because it's a very creative process actually. So yeah, start asking questions and don't feel like you need permission to do that because everybody has something to give in the arts.
Okay, last question. I want you to dream a little. So you have worked both in classical music and in UX design. What is your dream for applying UX design to an orchestra or to an arts organization?
I love doing things like this. So, I live in the Bay Area and there's a lot of startups here, incubators. My biggest dream is to put together something like a think tank or incubator to help people who wants to create some kind of tools or software, hardware in the arts, performing arts space. I think that would be super cool. And I think this industry needs different ways to work more efficiently, informatively, and needs ways to up level. I think a lot of people don't have the time or opportunity to do that. That would be my biggest dream.
Oh, I love it. As a fellow Bay Area person, that is such a Bay Area answer in the best way, though. I really I just love talking to you, Linda. Where can people find you online if they want to connect with you?
I'm on LinkedIn, probably there.
All right. Linda, thank you so much for being here and just sharing your expertise and wisdom and just the way you connect both worlds, UX design and classical music and performing arts in general is just, I don't know, fills me up, makes me excited. I could talk all day. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Aubrey, and for everything that you do.
Okay, Offstagers, speaking of user experience, growing your audience, expanding your donor base, and opportunities before you to do that, I have one final free resource this season to give you before I go quiet for a few months. I am hosting a free audience growth masterclass where I will be sharing 4 steps to building your audiences and revenue. I will be sharing the exact steps you can take, including this topic today on knowing your audience, as clearly as I possibly can in order to give you the path forward to growing your revenue. Go to my website now, www.aubreybergauer.com/masterclass to save your seat. It's literally free for everyone, so invite others at your organization who you want to hear the research and teaching on these topics too. And I promise you, it will be packed with value from the very beginning. It's my audience growth masterclass. It's totally free, 4 steps to building your audiences and revenue, and it's coming up very soon. aubreybergauer.com/masterclass. That's all for today, folks. Thanks so much for listening. If you like what you heard here, hit that button to follow and subscribe to this podcast. And if you've learned something or gotten value from this, please take 2 seconds to leave a quick 1-tap rating or review in return. To all of you, one more time, thanks again. See you next time on The Offstage Mic. The Offstage Mic is produced by me, Aubrey Bergauer, and Aaron Allen. The show is edited by Novo Music, an audio production company of all-women audio engineers and musicians. Our theme music is by Alex Grohl. Additional podcast support this season comes from Kelly Stedman, other members of the Changing the Narrative team, and social media brand management by Classical Content. This is a production of Changing the Narrative. Good marketing talent can be hard to find. That's why I'm so glad I discovered Marketer Hire. As my business has grown this year, I can definitively say a part of that growth was because of the way Marketer Hire helped me not just find good marketing talent I needed, but how fast they did it and how they worked to match me with the perfect people. First, I reached out about an email copywriting project and email platform migration we were going through, and Marketer Hire matched me with Jamie within a week. A few months later, we needed technical support on our Google Analytics, and they had us connected to Alec within days. Both Jamie and Alec needed zero training, were incredible to work with and experts in their respective areas, and most important, they completely delivered on time, on budget, and got the results I needed. What I like about Marketer Hire is that you can engage someone for as long or short as you want. I hired Jamie for a 3-month project, for example. On the intake call, they really listened to what I said I needed. I even said that I need someone with an interest in the performing arts. And it turned out Jamie had a theater background and is still a member of her local thespian troupe to this day. Both Jamie and Alec were able to move my projects forward so much quicker than if I had led a traditional hiring process or search. The whole thing was really easy from start to finish, and they never made me feel obligated to proceed if I didn't want to. They were even able to work with my small business budget. At your arts organization, imagine working with Fortune 500 level talent who ramps up to understand your work fast and then delivers great results. Get a $1,500 credit toward your first hire when you go to try.marketerhire.com/offstagemike. That's try.marketerhire.com/offstagemike. Whether your arts organization needs email copywriting or Google Analytics set up like I did, or if you need paid ads, paid search, or even a fractional CMO, Marketer Hire will get you set up with top talent fast. One more time, that's try.marketerhire.com/offstagemike to get started and get your $1,500 credit.